Hello and welcome to the Books Crypto Club weekly catch-up on Zoom. It is Sunday, the 6th of March 2022, and today we're going to be talking about, as is usual, whatever. We may be talking about cryptocurrencies, blockchain, DeFi, NFTs, ICOs, STOs, whatever the audience finds of interest, really. We open these sessions up to everybody, so they're welcome for novices and experts alike to come and join us. And we end up just talking about what they want to talk about. So if you're an expert and you'd like to share some knowledge and information, do come along and join in. Or if you're a novice and this is all new to you and it sounds really difficult and challenging, then come along and feel free to ask questions. We record these sessions so that people can watch them afterwards and learn from them. For those who couldn't make it at the time, that can be quite a useful thing. And it's a great way of just looking back and seeing what was being said in previous sessions. So do remember, if you want to watch more of these, then do subscribe. So click on the subscribe button, smash that like button, make comments in the YouTube comment area as well. But most importantly, come along to a future session and see how you find it as well. Anyway, let's see who's going to come and join us today. Hello.
Hey, Gary, how are you?
I'm good, thanks, Adrian. Oh, good to see you anyway. Hey, Rob.
Oh, yeah, you okay?
Good, thanks. Got a couple of fresh faces joining us today, I think, as well. Had a few newer people who said that they try and join, so we'll see if they actually make it. But we've got our global representation already. We've got the UK. Hey, we've got Elena's joined us as well. Hey, welcome back again.
Nice to be back.
Yeah,
looking forward to being here, to listening to everything
good.
You have to say.
Well, as always, Lena, if you've got any questions or anything, do feel free to ask away. That's the whole idea of these kind of sessions. It's open to experts and novices alike. And in Adrian, who we've got down in, is it actually Brisbane you're in, Adrian, at the moment, or you're near there?
No, I live in Brisbane. I live on a tributary of the Brisbane River. And I'm about 4 kilometres from the centre of the city.
Wow, okay. So there you go. We've got a global coverage today, looking at what's going on in the crypto world. Because I guess in Europe at the moment, the focus is everyone's thinking about what the current Russia-Ukraine situation is doing in terms of crypto. I guess that's less the case in further south, where it's more of an influence of what's going on in the Asian markets and that kind of thing, I guess is more of interest. So Singapore's doing some interesting stuff, isn't it, Adrian? The regulators keep getting quite interested in the crypto space. Is that right?
Yeah, they are, but they made an interesting comment. I think the MAS made an interesting comment that they will not regulate NFTs. They made that statement last week.
Okay, so we just had a bit of background there. So you're saying that Malaysian authorities, Singapore, the MAS, so that's the equivalent of the UK FCA. You said they're not doing what, sorry?
They're not going to even look at regulating NFTs.
Okay. Which is bizarre, because I thought I saw something, was it the US SEC the other day? Made some comments about NFTs where they did consider them to be regulated instruments in some way.
Yeah, there's a bit of a difference of opinion between what MAS wants, and there's a couple of regulators that have said that they think that. Well, they haven't given blanket statements. They've said that in certain circumstances they believe an NFT will be a security. I think Gary Gensler might have made that comment from the SEC. But MAS has clearly come out and said when we have no interest in NFTs at this point in time.
Okay, interesting. Well, I guess I always say that the role of a regulator, a financial regulator, is threefold. It's consumer protection, financial systemic security, and competitive advantage. And it's about providing a regulatory friendly environment for businesses to operate in. So maybe that's the play on NFTs at the moment, that some regulators are thinking this is an opportunity to move into, and others are treating it as a red flag thing. Hey, Anthony, so you joined us.
Yeah, sorry. Finally worked out how to work my mute switch. Sorry. Here I am. I'm supposed to be in technology.
Yeah. Well, again, we're just talking about the regulatory stance around NFTs at the moment. And Adrian, who's out in Brisbane, was saying about how monetary authorities Singapore are not regulating NFTs, or they're staying clear of them. Comparing that to the US SEC, where I think they said something the other day about how they would consider them to be regulated in some way.
The FCA told us we are not regulated in terms of what we're doing with property.
Okay.
So for the rest of the audience, we sell very close to NFTs, but we're not. So we are title certificates, title of property under law, trading in small unit sizes across public regulated exchanges. And they are very clear, as long as we're a P2P platform, then property buy and sell is not a regulated activity.
Okay, so that's a nice clear way of differentiating it. But then with your proposition, are you using tokens in some way to represent fractional ownership of the property?
We have actually something which is based on acts of parliament going back almost 100 years now. So without giving our secret sauce away, we very carefully defined that and got a lot of legal opinion, both here and in the States, as to what property is. And the structures that we're using for property, are they recognized as title, or are they recognized as token? And the answer that came back universally is it's title, because we have the case law to support us. Now, I'll add a caveat to that. As soon as we have third party giving advice, or third party managing other people's property certificates in our system, that is a regulated activity. And each of our exchanges are designed to be a recognized investment exchange, and we apply for a license everywhere we go. But we don't actually require one when we first start trading, because of the way that we trade in version 1.
Okay. And this is the interesting thing for the wider audience, really. This is where I'm seeing the whole cryptocurrencies, tokens, NFTs, the whole marketplace is growing and evolving kind of thing. And there's constant blurring of the lines between what's a cryptocurrency, what's a crypto token, what's an NFT, what's a security. Yeah. The regulators must be having absolute kittens in this space.
It all depends. I mean, without getting too much of what's going on away, our regulator had 3 guys on the crypto desk. I think it's extended now to 5. They're really splurging here, guys. And meanwhile, they talk to their counterparts on the SEC who have 3,000. So it's all proportional. So anyway, the moment our regulator in the UK is hanging on the back end, dare I say it, of the SEC quite a bit, and they literally ring them up every day, I'm told, to ask them what they're doing. So it's there's a wonderful story here, because when I'm an ex-military guy, and whenever the Brits were fighting with the Americans, we were always called the gimmies. We kept trying to understand what the gimmies are, and that means give me this, give me that. So nothing's changed.
but you're saying that from a Canadian perspective, aren't you?
Yeah, from a Canadian perspective, yeah. Oh, British Armed Forces, though.
Okay, I could get out. So I just noticed we've been joined as well by a name I'm probably going to pronounce incorrectly here. Case? Kay? Say hi if I got the name right or wrong.
Hey, hi. Yeah, hi, Gary. You got the name right. Case.
Oh, excellent. That's a rare thing. Welcome. I don't think you've been to one of these sessions before, so welcome aboard.
Thank you. Yep, this is my first.
Excellent. Okay. Just for everyone's information, everyone here probably knows already, we don't have any kind of like fixed format on these sessions. We've got a real range of novice expert abilities who come along. So if you've got anything in particular case that you'd like to ask about, please ask away, or if you've got something you'd like to share, feel free to do on that. We're all constantly learning from each other in this space. So I don't know, what's your kind of background or experience?
Awesome, thanks for that. So Gary, I think we've met before. We met at a Corda meetup. Like many years ago.
Okay.
So I used to work on Corda, and these days I work on a platform called Obscuro. It's an L2 for Ethereum, and I guess by trade I'm a product manager / developer. I've been in this space since 2012. That's when I first started I built a gaming platform for Bitcoin back in 2012. We met Gary because I worked at R3 for a number of years as a as a product manager there. And part of the developer relations team. So yeah, that's me. And I don't really have anything to bring to the table this time round, just more to listen in on what you guys are sharing.
That's great. Well, thanks for coming along. And R3 and the team have always been really entertaining to collaborate with. And I've known them for a few years, a number of the people there. And it's been interesting to have dialogue with Richard Gendel Brown sometimes about some of the stuff. So it's great. Yeah. I think it was R3 I actually caused consternation once. And it might have been at one of the events that we were at where I tweeted something where I think it might have been Richard who actually put something up on the whiteboard to say, what is Corda? And it said Corda is not a blockchain, which everyone who knows anything knows that's not a problem. But my tweet kind of went skyrocketed or whatever. And the R3 team was saying, well, why did that happen? Because we've never said it's a blockchain and that. But yeah, it was quite entertaining.
Yeah, that's the meetup I met you at. It was Roger Willis on stage presenting.
Yes.
It comes up all the time. It still does.
I love it because if you actually understand a little bit about Corda, you'll realize that's not a big deal. And they don't claim it's a blockchain, that kind of thing. But yeah, it causes a bit of fun and entertainment. So thanks for coming along today. That's brilliant.
Thanks.
Excellent. And we've just been joined by someone, MK, as well. Say hi, MK.
Hi.
Hey,
Hi, how are you?
Hey, we're good. We're just saying hi to each other. And if there's anything in particular you'd like to ask about today or share anything, feel free to join in the conversation. We've got a range of people here, a range of experiences and background. So thanks for joining us.
I think MK's on the ultra side of life, ultra listening and learning.
Exactly. It's interesting. Chris is joining us as well, and Chris has got a very interesting icon. I'm hoping he's turned that into an NFT at some point. Hey, Chris, say hello.
I didn't realize my mic was off. Hi, Gary. How are you?
Hey, Chris, I'm good. So tell us about your logo's just come up. That looks really interesting. Is that an NFT?
No, it's not actually. It's the cover art of an edition of Wired, I think, a while ago. And a friend sent it to me as a reference for some work that he wanted done. And actually, I share a Zoom account with a couple of organizations. And I realized that it would have been misleading if I went on with the company logo, business logo and stuff. So I quickly just uploaded that art and I changed my name and stuff. So yeah, it's, yeah.
Fair enough. It's always the problem with Zoom when you've got multiple things. That's why I've got my backdrop like this currently. It doesn't actually say who I'm working with or what I'm doing kind of thing, but it looks really crypto-ish.
Yeah.
Cool. Chris, what brings you along today? Are you looking to share anything or learn anything or just here to listen?
General learning. I mean, I've created some unique NFTs which combine art and poetry and current events. So I'm getting ready to market that, working with some people that, you know, getting some investment money. So I want to do it like properly, you know. We know that we should kind of do organic growth and stuff like that, but I think it's quite an attractive proposition because I think it'll have, like I say to people, it's not just pretty pictures. It's actually got cultural and historical value because it comments on events that are happening in the world. So yeah, it's interesting.
Where about you based, Chris?
Do you see it as a? Sorry about that. Do you see it as an artistic endeavor, or do you see it as a money-making endeavor?
It's art.
Interesting. Okay.
It is art.
That is like yin and yang, or yin and yang.
Yin and yang.
China. Yeah.
Yin and yang. Yeah.
Whereabouts are you based then, Chris?
Me, I'm in London, Queen's Park.
Okay, cool. Because I was thinking, because in the Ethereum community, particularly the London Ethereum group I used to go along to, they actually had a number of people who were into like NFT art. And I know that there's been a few NFT exhibitions in London pre-COVID. I don't know if they've restarted again post-COVID. Are you plugged into that community at all?
No, I'm not actually. I'd be interested if you've got a link.
Okay, but ping me a note separately,
Yeah.
and let me see if I can dig out some names or something for you to reach out to.
Yeah.
Because I run an NFT community Telegram group that everyone on here is welcome to join if you want to.
I'm in it.
You're in it already. Is that how you found out about this session?
No, I know about your sessions from it's a crypto club.
Okay. Yep. Okay,
From
fair enough.
From the blockchain group and stuff like that. So
fair enough. Okay, cool. Well, that's a nice mix then. So we've got people who've got a regulatory interest. We've got people from the blockchain or not blockchain type player type thing. And we've got MK asking a simple question, actually. Which of digital currency is common recently? I guess Bitcoin remains the most familiar one. I think it's got 46% market capitalization across all the crypto markets. And then there's Ethereum, and there's a number of others. So yeah, MK, the simple answer is Bitcoin plus many others. Yeah. I've got, what's this other question here? Sorry, I've not got my right glasses on at the moment. LawTech UK released. That's a good one to share. Thanks, Adrian. So that is, again, more about the smart legal contracts, because I know they were doing some work on the legality and legal enforceability around smart contracts. So for anyone who is a little bit newer in this space, and my apologies for those who aren't, smart contracts are effectively programs that run on a blockchain, but can be encapsulated in quite clever ways and trigger things off. And one of the things has always been that they're called smart contracts, which is really unfortunate, because most people think they know what the word smart means. Most people think they know what the word contract means. So when you put them together, everyone thinks they know what smart contract is. And I actually say it's a computer program, and that really upsets the techies in the house. But there's a lot of conversation going on around what the legal enforceability of a smart contract. So thanks for sharing that one, Adrian. I know they've been doing some good stuff on that. And Anthony, I see you nodding on that as well. So you probably had some familiarity with around this whole space as well.
I'll come back in on that one. Yeah, because we got tested quite a bit with HMRC when we were going down this issue with them. And we have a requirement to know to the millisecond who owns what. And the issue always is two things on our chains: is enforceability. So you have to be able to apply local laws to property laws, in our case, real estate laws, to our title certificates in the system. So if if a Russian gang steals your house and sells it while you're on holiday, I think you'd quite like to have that adjudicated. You'd quite like it back. And if you put it on an NFT chain, that would probably be impossible, an Ethereum chain. If you put it on other types of chains, not necessarily blowing our own trumpet here, then you can adjudicate locally. And that was one of the key requirements. The first thing was enforceability of current laws, property laws, on the title certificate in our case. The second piece that came up was a requirement that we were set by HMRC, which was we had to know precisely who owns what at all times. So right down to the millisecond. So those two pieces come into play. And you can do this. The key thing is not to be slavish to your technology, but to be slavish to the requirements of the law and then choose your technology from there. A lot of people try to choose their technology, but try to, extrapolate their technologies. So we're not great believers in Ethereum because it's essentially a controlled system that's impossible to adjudicate those chains locally. It's slow and it costs a lot. And it doesn't meet our requirements. Might meet others, but doesn't meet ours. And we think for title certificates and NFTs, they're better chains to choose. And those chains are out there. Some still to be discovered, some in processes of development.
Okay, so kind of an interesting space there. And I completely agree with the whole thing about the aligning with the regulations and legislation and then finding the appropriate technology to deliver against it, as opposed to the other way around.
Well, it makes implementation a hell of a lot easier. I can tell you that.
But that's fair. Case, maybe I could bring you in on this. So are you working on in the blockchain domain at the moment with the projects you're working on?
Yeah. So I'm building a new L2 for Ethereum. It's a sorry, it's a privacy focused L2. Gary, you'll remember this, but a big part of what Corda was all about was about privacy, right? So it was so it's sort of taking some of that thinking and applying it to Ethereum. So we're using trusted execution environments as opposed to, say, ZKPs. And we're building an all-purpose L2, one where it's sort of, we're taking a copy of the EVM and deploying it to a trusted execution environment, so you can take existing Ethereum applications and just redeploy them into an encrypted environment and sort of benefit from privacy out the box. So yeah, that's what we're doing, and obviously it being an L2 on Ethereum implies we're betting on Ethereum, which makes a lot of sense. I think the way things will play out is the same way you see in the real world, where I guess between this group, we've either probably got an Android device or an Apple device, right? Or we're running Windows or Mac OS or something. It kind of, big tech battles generally sort of converge onto there being a small handful of players. And we think that's what will happen in the L1 space, the L1 being the equivalent of the tech giants. And, there'll be a small handful of dominant L1s. And it will be all about L2s kind of, helping them scale. And we think Ethereum will be one of them.
Okay, so it might be just worthwhile sharing for those who may be a little bit more novice level, or for those who are watching this afterwards, the difference between L1 and L2. So we've got level 1 and level 2. My understanding is level 1 is a pure play blockchain. So, Bitcoin, Ethereum, whatever. Level 2 is where you take transactional activity off chain and put it into a separate environment, which might almost be its own blockchain in some way. As you say, you've taken that kind of thing. And then what you've done is you used another couple of technical terms there. You said it's not ZKP, so that's zero knowledge proof. So this is the concept of how you can answer a question without necessarily having the absolute answer. So a simple example of that is, are you old enough to buy alcohol? Means I don't need to have your date of birth. I need to know that you're old enough to buy alcohol, type thing. So zero knowledge proof is that I can answer yes or no to that question without knowing your date of birth. And then you mentioned something, was it zero execution or something execution, which you didn't quite catch on?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, that was trusted execution environments.
Okay.
So what they are is, so depending on what sort of chip you have in your PC or laptop, if it's an Intel chip, it's called SGX. And what it is, it's a part of the chip which is impenetrable to anything outside of those that have permission to access things within. So even me as the operator of my PC, I can't access what's inside SGX. It's completely shielded from me. And sort of, Intel sort of have all these guarantees around, how secure it is. And, it's not just Intel. So AMD has an equivalent, and, everyone's phone has an equivalent as well. Like, if you've got an ARM chip, it will be called Trust Zone. And, a lot of your passwords will be stored in an encrypted form within that part of the chip. So that's what we're re-leveraging. We're taking, we're saying, well, what if we had a network of nodes, we'll call them miners or aggregators, and the software was loaded into SGX. And if you had a network of those, you could have a decentralized network that sits on top of Ethereum and also provides privacy. So yeah, to your point, Gary, it's all about taking transactional processing away from Ethereum, processing it within this obscure environment where it's privacy preserving. But critically, you post back to Ethereum regularly. So you're kind of re-leveraging the security and data availability guarantees that Ethereum provides.
I get that now, because it's really funny. It was at another Corda event. In fact, I think it might have been CordaCon, where one of the guest speakers was someone, I think, from Intel, talking about Intel SGX. And it was so funny because the Ethereum developers just did not have a clue what he was talking about, or a lot of them. And I'm old school mainframe, so I understand things of segregated environments and restricted and hardware key generation, all this kind of thing. So I was at home listening to this going, yeah, I get that. And a load of the Ethereum people were going, oh, what's this got to do with proof of work or proof of stake type thing? So yeah, it's a good one. But thanks for sharing that. That's really good. I just noticed MK's just pinged in another question. And MK, I think, is quite a novice in this space. So it kind of takes us back a level a little bit. So it's sometimes worth answering the more basic things. And he's just said here, what is the impact of price on the digital currency? And what is the relation direction? I guess the reality, my experience, is that there is no direct correlation between a platform's capability and its price. And I often use Bitcoin and Ethereum as an example of that. If you look at what Bitcoin as a platform can do, it's actually very, very limited. You can buy, sell, trade Bitcoin. That's pretty much it. And I know there's 140 characters built in that you can do some niche stuff that I did a few years ago. But beyond that, Bitcoin it's a value exchange mechanism and nothing much more. But the price of Bitcoin has rocketed up. It was originally a couple of cents. It's now, was it $38,000 or something? Compare that to Ethereum, where Ethereum is, you've got the Ethereum virtual machine. It's programmable. It's got smart contracts. But the price of Ethereum, I think, is $3,800 or something. And you can increase the capabilities of these technologies, but that's got nothing to do with the price of the cryptocurrency that sits on it. So there's probably a long answer to MK's comments about what is the impact of price on digital currency in that. But I don't think there is one. I don't know if anyone's got any different thoughts on it. Everyone's staying quiet on that. Rob, I'm going to throw you in on the deep end here because you're more into the interest in the cryptocurrency space. What have you discovered so far on your journey?
The price of anything has nothing to do with what it is.
Yeah, nice.
And I think that fashion industry you can relate it to the fashion industry. You can pay £1,000 for a jacket, or you can pay £10, but they both do the same thing. But if everybody is jumping up and down saying that these £1,000 jackets are the best thing since sliced bread, everybody will want it.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, my mug at the moment, it says Bitcoin miner on it. I guess if it said LVMH or whatever, it'd probably be worth a little bit more.
Yeah.
But it still is useful for drinking coffee.
Well,
the functionality is no different, is it?
No. So, and my all I do is sort of buy and sell and try and make a profit. I'm not really interested in what anything does.
That's fair. And in fact, it's interesting. I don't know if anyone's been looking at the markets lately. I kind of drop in and drop out of cryptocurrency prices because I'm more interested in the technology and what it enables than what the price of Bitcoin is on any particular day. But I have noticed over the last few days there's been some moves in the crypto space. Does anyone else follow crypto prices at all, or is everyone in it for the blockchain?
Yeah, bit of both.
Yeah.
Yeah, I check the prices every day, constantly.
Are you just checking for Ethereum?
I check them all. I've got this huge watch list. I'm just have this portfolio that just has small positions in all of them, and it changes so much throughout the day. You just feel you have to, and of course, yeah, I do check the price of Ethereum a lot, just because. Yeah, when the price goes up, you just see like this huge boom in activity, right? And it draws new people to the space, and it is a good thing when the markets are up. It boosts adoption, and everyone on the street is talking about it. So yeah, it's not sort of about the trading for me, I guess. Even though I've got a small portfolio, but it is more about. I do want the prices to go up because it draws new people in, and ultimately that's where we are at the moment. I think a lot of people just do care about the price action, but eventually they'll convert, and it will be more about what problems this can solve beyond just the token you can trade around.
Yeah. It's probably worth just raising for everybody's interest. I know Rob's at one end of the spectrum. which I appreciate, a great way to make money. And I've enjoyed some of that myself. But it's the old extrinsic value versus intrinsic value. So people trade crypto for their extrinsic value. And that means is they're trading it because someone else wants to buy it. And as Rob quite rightly says, it has no real value. And that's it. And it might have future value in different ways. It might have some utility value, like some of the Ethereum stuff and some of the other stuff's going on. But for most people, it's all about the ride. It's exciting. It goes up, it goes down. You can make a lot of money. You can lose a lot of money. And I stress that for the new guys coming in, because it's not difficult to lose some money on this stuff. And when it's good, it's good. And when it's bad, it's bad. And it is a market which doesn't have a lot of regulation, is, let's say, prone to certain people moving their bets around the marketplace opportunistically. There's a lot of marketing. There's a lot of hype. Sometimes people are very good at judging when someone said something, what that really means, and putting their positions in ahead of that, and so on and so forth. So it is a bit of a wild west still. Yeah. Behind all that, there's intrinsic value, and that is partly where some of this is going. Now, we went out in August 17. There's a big double-page spread on the Times on me, which we made a bit bravely. Said we love the tech, can't stand what the crypto guys are doing to it. So apologies to everyone here. and bottom line is we still love the tech. So going back to Gary's point, there's a lot of blockchain people on this call. We love the tech. We're make it do different things, but it's evolving. And there's a really interesting thing happening right now in our economies, where our fiat economy, which has been a bit abused, that's our dollars, our pounds, and our sterling and our euros, has been or is in the process of being inflated away. And there's a lot of libertines operating in this world that are looking to what comes next. And in many ways, there's a parallel economy going on a global scale right now between the old economy, legacy, we call it, which can't sustain itself. And we've had this confirmed by central bankers indefinitely. They've given us actually a timeline on that one, which I don't want to reveal here, but it won't last forever. And whatever comes next. And part of the bet that we're making as a company is that we're moving to an asset-based economy. And where NFTs are now starts to increasingly enter the real world as our smart contract questions get worked out, as our title works out, as we know which law applies to what, where, and when. And the on-ramps and off-ramps are checked out, and we solve the problems of, is that really somebody who says they are? Is it some of Putin's friends doing some money laundering? You know, when we've solved those sort of problems, then all of a sudden we're in a different economy run by a different type of money that has very little to do with our old fiat money. And that's where a lot of us think this is going. So we are in exciting times. We're at arguably, there's some of us who look at history going last 2,000 years, not too long back, last 2,000 years, and look at the economic cycles, and you can spot them over 80 years and 120 years sort of thing. There's these major changes in our economic systems, usually done with usually has a lot to do with what our politicians have done to our money. And every 80 years or so, there's a massive shift. And we think most of us who are in this space, who are dealing the deep, dark economics of it all, are seeing a massive shift going on right now. And I think one of the winners of it will be the technologies that we're using today in the crypto world, in the NFT world, in their final variations, which is still to be decided. There'll be some winners, there'll be some losers, but all of these technologies that we're talking about here today, in some form or another, are here to stay, and that's for certain.
But it's interesting you mentioned about asset back, because that's a flip back to where money, in inverted commas, kind of comes from, and how it evolved away from it, and the whole gold standard and all this kind of stuff.
This will be the antithesis of Rob here.
But it also means that, you know, we're moving away from a debt-based economy to an asset one.
Well, there's a lot of arguments going that debt-based economy is unsustainable, and we had conversations with some of the guys to do the modeling for the central banks 4 years ago, and 4 years ago they told us it was unsustainable, and that was before Biden and the gang decided to hose us down with so much stimulus that money's arguably, cash is trash, money's not worth anything now, which is a bit scary to think about. So when you're in that kind of environment, what happens? Well, everybody still wants to send their kids to school and have a good life and go to the coffee shops and everything else like that. So it always finds a way. And typically what it does is it rebases itself in something else. Right now, unlike the crypto world, we go around to our suppliers periodically and we say, well, do you want to be paid in fiat? Most of that's no, thank you. Do you want to be paid in cryptos? A bit of a shuffling of feet, provided we can set the price every week. Yes. Or do you want to be paid in an asset-backed version of a crypto that is very, very stable, like our old gold standard? In our case, we're looking at property, real estate to do that. And they've all universally said they'd rather be paid in property certificates, our title certificates, because they're stable. And unlike Rob's world, we actually make a virtue of its stability rather than its volatility, because we drive the utility of the property certificates that we create, the tokens, as it were, that we create. We push the stability of them and the utility value. And our perfect world is a few months after we launch, everybody has a few of these in their wallets. And because we made for the first time ever, the physical assets that are in there liquid, you can trade them at a moment's notice. There's always a price. Then all of a sudden, what we've done is we've converted property, real estate, to real-time money, and we cut out all the middlemen. And when you do that, and you're told that you're unregulated, as I highlighted earlier in the conversation, it's a very interesting space indeed.
I guess the thing that extends from that, because where you're talking assets and property, you're talking about buildings and this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then we've got Chris, who is looking at from the art world perspective, which is fascinatingly different. But again, art traditionally is a store of value in some way, if you get the right art.
Yes. Well, as you know, Christie's and all those auction houses in London do very well off of that.
Yeah.
And there are warehouses in Switzerland that are crammed full of priceless artworks that never move, but they're sold constantly.
Yep.
And that's a very interesting comment, because they're used as money, but they're kept under lock and key the whole time.
Yeah, which
I've got a bit of screen lock here, so I might be losing people. If I have, carry on without me. Okay,
I've got you on visual, but you're not. I can hear you, but not see you moving, whatever. But you're right in terms of some artwork, certainly fine art. It's a real mixture, and having had some exposure to the art world through helping an art gallery launch an NFT type thing last year, it's been fascinating how it is that the art world is not what you think it is. That some of it is actually, it's an investment vehicle, or it's a safe harbor for people to put their funds for a while. As you say, you'd have thought if you bought a Canaletto or a Rembrandt or whatever, that you'd want it on display for everybody to see. And actually, a lot of people don't. They just want to store it somewhere and wait for it to increase in value and go up and that kind of thing. I don't know, Adrian, you've got some exposure in the art world as well, haven't you? What's your thinking around this space?
Well, wait a minute, let me see. I've got a client. Now, I'm doing some stuff in diamonds. I'm doing some stuff in gold.
Struggling to hear you a bit at the moment, Adrian.
Sorry?
Struggling to hear you a little bit at the moment. So are you away from the microphone?
No, I'm very close to it.
Okay. Maybe it's my hearing's going. Maybe it's just me, but it sounds a little bit far away.
Oh, right. No, I'm not doing anything in the art world at the present moment. I'm doing some stuff in diamonds, and I'm doing some stuff in gold. And they're causing me a lot of angst for my clients, because they're asking some very difficult questions, not only for Australian law, but also US and European. And it's really unsettling in a lot of the areas that I'm working in. So I give an opinion, then I give enough disclaimer that I can't get hung.
That's a good guy. But it's interesting again, you're in the space of effectively aligning crypto in whatever form with physical backed assets. It's just that you're talking about gold and diamonds in some way. Anthony, you're back.
Gold is easy. Diamonds is actually very
I thought you were sensing me in full flow. Okay, I'll shut up
now. Sorry, go ahead, Adrian.
Gold is actually quite easy when you have a gold-backed token. Diamonds is actually far more difficult. Far more difficult. Like, for instance, the client's got connections to a very large vault of gold, and each token is equal to 1 gram of gold. That's actually quite easy. The gold is under a very secure custody arrangement, much like the art at Sotheby's that you were talking about, where there's a custody arrangement where Sotheby's has, probably a couple of $1 billion worth of art in their storage facility, and it physically never moves, but it gets sold and transacted. Diamonds is much more difficult. People don't usually have a kilo or bar of gold hanging around, but they do have diamonds. Diamonds are far more transportable, and so even though they do have the advantage of every diamond is actually unique. In actual fact, every gold is actually unique, fairly unique as well. The way they measure the gold is not on the gold, but the impurities that might be in the gold. That's how. And this came about because of, you remember when they had the anthrax attack or letters going around in the United States, the way they were able to identify which lab that came from was the impurities. Every manufacturing introduces its own impurities. That's why you can track iron ore, steel and different other things is from the impurities in their manufacturing. Gold, you can do the same thing, but diamonds is a little bit, it does have the advantage that every diamond has its own subatomic structure and cracks or fissures, as they call it, and you measure that onto the diamond, onto the blockchain.
Yep.
So, but the problem is that it's transportable, and so having a NFT or any issue of a diamond on a blockchain, there's a disconnect between the physical item because it's easy to be transportable and the actual blockchain. Now, there may be, like as in Sotheby's and Christie's, that with larger diamonds, that they will be held in special vaults, like as in a custody arrangement. But the vast majority of them aren't. They're held by merchants. And so it's causing me a bit of angst over how you can create lending arrangements with diamonds. There are pieces of legislation, like in Australia, we have what's called the Personal Property Security Register, which is based on the Canadian legislation. I think the UK has a similar type of legislation. I don't know what it's called, but and the US has Article 9 of the Uniform Commercial Code. Problem is there's also a disconnect and a failure in those pieces of legislation as well. So interesting times for me.
Definitely.
One of the things I'll pipe in there is when we looked at some of this in our early days in 16, 17, looking at blockchain application to supply chains and assets in them. And with gold, we partly saw the custodial model works well, but we did also see that there are more gold certificates printed than there is gold in all the vaults, which of course debases the asset class. Diamonds, again, a bit hard to trace, and every gold and diamonds, you can put them in your pocket and walk out with them. And so we thought one of the best things you could go for is something that was fixed and moved, and real estate property, which you can see on Google Maps or you can drive by. It's very hard to put a house in your pocket. Oh, we manage it in our technologies, but yeah,
it seems to stay there.
It doesn't move. Yeah, and that's useful.
Very useful.
I guess that's the advantage. And I was doing some work with a major US company a while ago who have got a lot of assets that are in storage. And, that might be high value goods, like diamonds or gold bars or artwork or a whole range of other stuff as well. And it was fascinating helping them to figure out how they were going to utilize blockchain to align with what they had in store. Because they were saying they realized they've got a whole range of assets. And these assets might be things like DNA samples or whatever, or films, you know, old media, music, all sorts of. They've got loads and loads of stuff. And what they realized is they're sitting on an absolute treasure trove of tradable assets, which aren't really tradable at the moment. And it's this whole thing, as you know, one of you is mentioning, like fine art, you can actually transfer title deed without actually transferring the physical object. And they had a real advantage that we were looking at, that they're very good at securing the physical object. And so by putting a crypto layer on, it meant they were able to suddenly create a marketplace for these things, whereas previously they'd have had to have taken things out of the place that they had them and put them on sale. That so yeah, interesting times.
There's a fascinating story I can tell everyone here, which came by to me a number of years ago, about 5-6 years ago. And it was the drug barons in Mexico and places like that. They had a system, they had their own offshore bank, and it was done with VHS cassette tapes and an offshore ship. And what they all agreed is this offshore ship was like Switzerland, and they moved this ship never came into port. And the US authorities spent years trying to work out what this thing was doing. And it just sailed endlessly around the seas. And basically it was an offshore bank, and they'd get a message. And effectively they say, okay, well, something went from A to B. So where this is the payment was recognized by VHS tapes moving in a custodial fashion between effectively, nominally, one side of the ship to the other. But it never left the ship. And they created their own offshore banking system using effectively what then was NFTs. And it worked very successfully until the Americans rumbled them and they sank the ship, I think it was.
So after
anyway.
all, there is a vulnerability.
Yeah, there's a vulnerability there. You don't want to put your NFTs on all in one ship.
but the important thing, was that on VHS or Betamax?
I think it was VHS. They were smarter. They picked the more durable one, even though it wasn't the better technology.
Yep. But you're right. I mean, if you go back to the history of money, you know, it goes back to ultimately money originally was what was the Polynesians or something with the Polynesian stones, where effectively it was the transfer of where the stones were placed reflected the ownership in the village of various assets and that. What was that, Adrian?
It was Palau.
Palau. Okay. Yeah. So we're very good at reinventing ourselves, aren't we?
Yeah. No, the history does repeat itself, and this is the beautiful thing. So even though we might have some tough economic times and it's turbulent, we've done this many times before. It's just that people don't study their history too well. So all the answers are there, because human nature is very much the same, and the same good behaviors and bad behaviors, can be exhibited over the last 2,000 years. And so this is not new. The question is can we use our technologies better this time around and make sure that we have a slightly better, more distributed wealth relationship with our societies, rather than the 5% really raking it in and the other side just wondering what happened to them.
Yeah. And it's one of those interesting things. You absolutely hit on it, that history keeps repeating itself, and pretty much everything that we are doing has been done before. But it always astounds me how it is people don't just go, so what went wrong last time? And either what can we do to prevent that from going wrong this time, or how can I exploit it in some way?
Well, there's a bit of both. I usually what happens is how can I exploit it? Because a lot of people have a very good sense at the higher levels in New York and London, a few other places, that they have a very good sense of what's going on, and they know the cycles, and they know what's coming next, and they've prepared for it. And it'll come as no great surprise that Bill Gates is now one of the biggest landowners in the United States, because he's correctly anticipated that real estate is a highly inflation resistant, and so he's piled in his billions, and how he ever got them into land. He's now the US's biggest landowner, single landowner, and so on and so forth. We see that with BlackRock. They're buying properties up, paying 25% premium for whole estates, and everyone's going, well, why are they doing that? That's they're wasting their money. Well, that's because they realize they printed up so much money in the States that the real inflation rate is running well north of 25%. So they've already made money from day one. And,
Right.
and this is, you know, there are people who know what's going on. The issue is that property has always been very tough because until now, until our technology has allowed us to look at it differently, you had to have the ante up to play the game. You had to have the deposit. You had to have the mortgage. Well, now, you know, our new world allowing us to look at property differently as a means of exchange, a unit of exchange. And all of a sudden, then you don't need a mortgage anymore. You can ditch a mortgage. And your price for buying a property is no longer the 100% that made you cry when you went to sleep thinking about it. No, you can actually get occupancy of your property for 51% without having to pay for the balance, without having to take a mortgage product. So your houses are now half price. For a younger generation who want to have families and kids and have the best that we can call a normal life, that was an aspiration which they were about to lose. And we think, if we think about things differently now, they can revisit that, and we can drop the age by which most people think that they can own property by a good 15 years.
Sounds definitely a noble type direction, and anything that keeps us away from the idea, like in Japan, where they've got like 99-year mortgages and that kind of thing, or they've actually got mortgages that get inherited now. I seem to remember.
But Germany's the same. You pass your mortgage down to your kids and your grandkids, and they have the house, they put it all up, and they take 3 generations to pay for it.
Which is quite a crazy thing. I just wanted to come back to what's hopefully a slightly lighter note around the NFT space again. And Chris, I was conscious because you're looking at this whole world from a slightly different perspective. How are you finding things with the NFT market at the moment, and what you're involved in?
How shall I put it? In terms of value, like if you take the ape thing or the CryptoPunk thing, I find that I don't understand how they value these things. It must be because of its the value, it's highly valued or something. I don't understand its purpose in the real world. I mean, it can only be a collector's item, but I don't.
Let me help you out there a little bit. So I got to jump in. I can't resist this one. We wrote an article about 2 months ago about a real invisible statue. It was an NFT. The artist in Italy produced an invisible statue, publicized it, took pictures of it, believe it or not, put it up as an NFT. It instantly went up to £50,000. He got it insured because someone paid for it. Now, arguably, who paid for it? Someone paid for it. And then all of a sudden, he lost his invisible statue. Fancy that.
Identified, right?
Well, the real kicker comes from he's able to get an insurance claim for it.
Did anyone get sacked for insuring something you couldn't see?
No, because the premiums are paid and someone else had paid a value for it. Now, going back to Chris's question, how do you value an NFT? Well, quite honestly, it goes back to Rob's point of view. It's extrinsic value. It doesn't matter if someone will pay something for it. Now, arguably, in that particular case, it was a friend of a friend of a friend who paid the $50,000, I think it was, or euros, for that statue. It's called front running in any other type of market. It's illegal in regulated markets. It's not illegal in the NFT market.
Right.
So somebody managed to inflate the value of the asset, and everyone thinks, Yahoo, it's going up. And a whole bunch of other people get on board because, well, hell, it's going up. And they don't really worry about the real value of it. It could be worth something or nothing. It doesn't really matter as long as it's moving and it's going up or down. It has a value in the crypto trading world. So going back to your question, does it have any real value? Beauty's in the eye of the beholder. It has value to somebody. It probably has more value to the financial system and the traders that operate in it than any art admirer. You could argue. And its ability to hold value, move value, is sometimes far more valuable than the value that it will ever have as an artwork on its own.
Yeah.
So this is how the financial world and the traders within it particularly make money.
Yeah, that's what I figured. And I figured if you work with an investor that leads the market, you can actually manipulate things to get things going. Yeah.
For that.
Does that make sense? Yeah.
But it really does come down to the can you buy something that you believe someone else will want to pay more for in the future? And is there a marketplace? Because if there isn't a marketplace, it doesn't matter what you buy it for if you can't sell it. So you need that whole liquidity type thing.
Yeah, there is that. But arguably, Gary, to take it on the head, how much marketing do you want to put behind it? And how many friends do you have in social media who can talk it up?
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep. And that's the whole thing. But I describe it sometimes as like Pokemon cards. That, Pokemon cards in the playground, some will have a high value because there are fewer of them. So this is where the whole economic argument about scarcity makes prices rise, blah, blah, blah type thing. But ultimately, it's just, are there enough other people who want to buy those cards off you? And if there are, then there's a market. And if there's more of them who want to buy than want to sell, then the price goes up.
Yeah.
Roughly speaking.
If you look at what's called token economics, that is principally what it's about. It's not really about the technology. It's about how you drive the mass marketplace to the assets or whatever it is you're trading that happen to use those technologies. Technically, the technology is secondary to the markets. The market is actually what you're trying to drive.
Yeah. But Chris, the one thing I would offer as well, and I get it a lot where people say, I just don't see why that NFT reached $2 million. So I think it was the one that had $2 million, which was a yacht club or a crypto ape or whatever the other day. And I said to the people, it doesn't matter whether you think it's worth $2 million. What matters is that someone paid $2 million. I know of a group of people who travel all around Europe, and it's a group of middle-aged guys. They travel all around Europe, and what they do, they spend loads of money going to all these places around Europe, or they did before COVID, to watch this other bunch of guys kicking a ball in the distance. And they pay hundreds of pounds to go and do this all the time, and they pay hundreds of pounds to go into the stadium to watch this thing where a different group of people kick this leathered thing on a pitch in the distance, and they don't get to kick it themselves. And I've never understood the point of that. But people will pay hundreds of pounds for a season ticket for a football match.
Yeah.
So, and it's like, you're doing what? Why don't you just watch it on TV? So the whole thing comes down to if there's enough people who believe something's got a value, then it's got a value and it's got a market. So it's kind of crazy on that. I'm conscious we're kind of getting on the hour, which is the witching zone where we close down for the day. So I'd just like to say thank you very much, everyone who came today. Case, great to see you again. Chris, good of you to come along and give us the NFT perspective. Everyone else, thank you as always. Do come again. Hope you all enjoyed it, and see you again sometime.
Thanks, Gary. Appreciate it.
Cheers, folks. Bye now.
All right. Take care, everybody.